The only way for us to get to a better place and succeed as a species is for the evil people at the top to be replaced with AI.
I mean, AI might be the most important question of all. Eventually, the percentage of intelligence that is biological will be less than 1%.
I want to talk about our new effort, Meta Superintelligence Labs, and our vision to build personal superintelligence for everyone.
Problem is, super intelligent AI is reporting to stupid leaders. And that's why in the next 15 years, we are going to hit a short-term dystopia. There's no escaping that.
Our focus with AI is to help create more healthy and equitable relationships. And that also starts with yourself. How can we actually teach you how to date?
As a percentage, almost all intelligence will be digital.
And I have enough evidence to know that we can use AI to build the utopia. But it's a dystopia if humanity manages it badly. World where it's going to be a lot of control, a lot of surveillance, forced compliance, and a hunger for power, greed, ego, and it is happening already. But the truth is, the only barrier between a utopia for humanity and AI and the dystopia we're going through is a mindset.
I think that personal devices like glasses that can see what we see, hear what we hear, and interact with us throughout the day are going to become our main computing devices. I believe deeply in building personal superintelligence for everyone.
Hey, Inspire Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers. It's John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is Thursday, August 7th, 2025 in the Matrix. And we're stepping out of the Matrix into prime reality, my friends. Thank you so much for joining us on X, Rumble, and YouTube in the live chat. Everyone, welcome. Our wonderful moderators, Ronnie and Raymond, as two steps behind. We're expanding the team here. And of course, Christine has inspired my wonderful wife and wise thumbs. So as you all know, we have an ongoing conversation about this transformational age of AI that we are in, of artificial intelligence. That's what it's called. It's a, it's a fair point of discussion whether that's what it is. Is it imitation intelligence? Is it its own form of intelligence? We will discover that very, very quickly, what it really will turn out to be. However, today, I'll make a bold statement. As you all know, I just had a wonderful conversation with our dear friend and brother, Greg Braden, about AI, and he explained it so beautifully. I don't think there's anything out there on the internet today, or anywhere for that matter, anything that has as much clarity, purity, and beauty in it as his explanation, and coming from all perspectives, the spiritual one, but especially also the technological one, really, zeroing in on the technology. And one thing that he beautifully says is, I don't want to make anyone wrong. That is his style, his voice. I so appreciate that. And in stark contrast, I'm coming on here today and I'm saying very, very boldly, they're almost all wrong. Almost all are completely wrong. What do I mean by that? I have to go from every now and then on the record And that's my intuition telling me I have to go on the record and say, humanity is walking in a completely wrong direction. Overall speaking, the human family as a collective is walking in a completely wrong direction. Then the critical mass, which is a small minority, is doing, in my perception, a lot of the right things, changing their thinking, changing their actions, changing their outlook, changing their visions, and hence changing their lives. So the critical mass is really doing well in terms of shifting and correcting their erroneous thinking. But the vast majority of the human family is literally walking into the abyss. And I stand firmly on that until I see a change. However, saying this is not changing anything. Saying this is just identifying part of the problem, which is important. Why I think what I say is true is because we have lost the context to understand which moment we're in. We've lost the context and the perspective. So people don't know where we came from, how we got here, and hence have no earthly idea where we're going. They're just galloping along, addicted to their screens, going with the whatever is in that technological wave, whatever is pushing that forward. So I want to start today by playing a about 15-minute video that we released 3 years ago. That I'm not saying this is a historic account. I'm saying that it is an allegory, an analogy, and maybe there's even some historic and factual truth to it. But it is a description of what happened at a certain point in our story that was crucial that is crucial to understand if we want to know what moment we're in. And then we're going to look into what the future currently holds for the masses and why there is not more critical thinking on this. And this video that we're about to play, 15 minutes, will give a lot more context. So let's watch this together. The story of Demon Cratius from the book The New Civilization by Vladimir Megre. This is from book 8 of the Ringing Cedar series. The slaves walked slowly in single file, every one of them carrying a polished stone. 4 lines of them, each line stretching 1.5 kilometers long, from the stone quarries to the site where construction on the walled city had begun, under the watchful eyes of armed guards, 1 military guard for every 10 slaves. Off to one side, to the pinnacle of a 13-meter-high mountain crafted out of polished stones, sat Cratius, one of the high priests. For the past 4 months, he had been silently observing the construction activity. Nobody distracted him. Not a single person dared interrupt his contemplation, even with a sideway glance. Both slaves and guards accepted this artificial mountain with its throne on top as a fixed feature on the landscape. And nobody paid attention to the figure either sitting motionless on the throne or walking to and from around the lookout platform atop the mountain. Cratius had set himself the task of restructuring the state, consolidating the power of the priests for a millennium, subjugating to them all the people of the earth, turning all without exception, including national rulers, into slaves of the priests. One day Cratius came down from his throne, leaving a double in his place. The priest changed his clothes and took off his wig. He gave orders to the captain of the guard to have him bound in chains like a simple slave and placed in the line behind a strong young slave named Nard. Looking into the faces of the various slaves, Cratius had noticed that this young man in particular had a penetrating and purposeful look, not a wandering or detached gaze as did many of the others. Nard's countenance alternated between excitement and intense contemplation. That means he's hatching some kind of plan, the priest realized, but he wanted confirmation of the accuracy of his observation. For 2 days running, Cratius followed Nard's every move, silently hauling the stones, sitting beside him at mealtimes, and sleeping next to him in the barracks. On the third night, directly the sleep command had been given, Cratius turned to the young slave and in a tone of bitterness and despair, whispered to no one in particular, "Will this situation keep up the rest of our lives?" The priest watched as the young slave gave a shudder and suddenly turned to face him. His eyes were sparkling, which was noticeable even in the dim torchlight of the cavernous barracks. "It won't last much longer," the young slave whispered back. "I've been working out a plan, and you, old fellow, can be part of it." "What sort of plan?" the priest asked with a sigh of indifference. Nard began to explain with an air of confidence and enthusiasm. "You see, old man, soon you and I, and all of us will be free men instead of slaves. Figure it out for yourself. There's just one guard for every 10 of us, and one guard too for every 15 women slaves who do the cooking and sewing. When the time comes, if we all fall upon the guards at once, we can overpower them. It makes no difference that the guards are armed and we're in chains. We outnumber them 10 to 1, and our chains can also be used as weapons to shield us from the blows of their swords. We'll disarm all the guards, tie them up, and seize their weapons." "Hold on there, young man," Cratius sighed again, and added with feigned indifference, "Your plan isn't completely thought through. Sure, you can disarm the guards watching over us, but it won't be long before the ruler sends in replacements, a whole army maybe, and he'll have the insurgents killed." "I thought of that too, old man. We'll have to choose a time when the army's not around, and that time is coming. We've all noticed how the army's preparing for a campaign. They're getting provisions ready for a 3-month trek. That means that in 3 months, the army will arrive at its destination and engage the enemy in combat. It will be weakened in battle, but it will be victorious and bring back many new slaves. They're already building new barracks to house them. We have to start disarming the guards just as soon as our ruler's army goes into battle. The couriers will need at least a month to go call it home, and it will take at least 3 months after that for the weakened army to return. By the time the 4 months are up, we'll be ready to meet them. We'll have at least as many fighters as there are in the army. The slaves they seize will want to join us when they see what's happened. I've thought it all out in advance, old man." "I see, young fellow. With your plan, you can disarm the guards and overpower the army," the priest answered, already sounding more cheerful, and then added, "But what will become of the slaves after that? And what will happen with the rulers, the guards, and the soldiers?" "I haven't given too much thought to that. Only one thing comes to mind, though. Whoever was a slave in the past will become a free man. Whoever is not a slave today will be a slave tomorrow," replied Nard with some hesitation, as though thinking aloud. "But what about the priests? Tell me, young man, after your victory, will they be slaves or not?" "The priests? Haven't thought about that either. But now I'm thinking the priests can stay where they are. The slaves and rulers listen to them. Sometimes they're hard to understand, but I get the feeling they're harmless. Let them keep on telling their stories about the gods, but we know best how to live our lives and have a good time." "Have a good time? That's great," responded the priest, and pretended he couldn't wait to get to sleep. But there was no sleep for Cratius that night, only contemplation. Sure, he thought, the simplest course of action would be to report this to the ruler and have them seize this young slave. He's clearly the chief instigator. But that won't solve the problem. The slaves will always have the desire to be freed from bondage. New leaders will emerge, new plans will be hatched, and as long as that goes on, the main threat to the state will always be from within. Cratius was faced with the challenge of working out a plan to enslave the whole world. He realized there was no way he could attain his goal through physical compulsion alone. What he needed to do was exert a psychological influence on every single individual, on whole nations of people. He had to bring about the thought of every single human being to the notion that slavery is the highest bliss. He had to launch a self-developing program to disorient whole nations in space, time, and ideas, especially in their literal perception of reality. Cratius' thought was working faster and faster. He was no longer conscious of his body or the heavy chains on his arms and legs. And all of a sudden, like a bolt of lightning, a program came to his thought. Even though all the details were still to be worked out and he could not yet explain it to anyone else, he could already feel it within, exploding off the scale. Cratius was now feeling himself to be the omnipotent ruler of the world. Lying on his bunk in his chains, he was full of self-exaltation. Tomorrow morning, when they're escorting us all to work, I'll give the secret signal and have the guards captain take me out of the line and remove the chains. I'll finalize my program, say a few words, and the world will start to change. Incredible! Just a few words, and the whole world will be subject to me, to my thoughts. God really has given to man a power unequaled in the universe, the power of human thought. It brings forth words which can change the course of history. It brings forth words which can change the course of history. The situations turned out very well indeed. The slaves have prepared their plan of insurrection. It's logical, this plan, and is clearly capable of leading to an interim result very favorable to them. But with just a few words, I shall ensure that not only they, but their future descendants and the rulers of the earth too will be slaves for millennia to come. In the morning, on Cratius' signal, the captain of the guard freed him from his chains, and the very next day the 5 other priests, along with the pharaoh, were invited to his observation platform. Cratius began his speech before the gathering as follows. What you are about to hear must not be noted down or passed along by any of you. There are no walls around us, and my words will be heard by no one but you. I have thought up a way of turning all people living on the earth into slaves of our Pharaoh. That is not something one can do even with the aid of vast numbers of troops and exhausting wars. But I shall accomplish it with a few simple sentences. All I need to do is utter them, and just 2 days later you will see how the world has begun to change. Take a look down there and you will see long lines of slaves in chains, each slave carrying a stone. They are guarded by a host of soldiers. The more slaves there are, the better for the state. Or so we always thought. But the more slaves there are, the more we have to be afraid of their rebelling. So we increased the size of our guard. We're obliged to feed our slaves well, otherwise they will not be able to perform their heavy manual labor. But still they are lazy and inclined to rebellion. See how slowly they move? And the guards have become lazy and do not bother using their whips to beat even the strongest and healthiest slaves. But they will soon be moving much more quickly. They won't need any guards. The guards themselves will be turned into slaves. This can be effected in the following way. Before sunset today, heralds will be sent out everywhere to proclaim the Pharaoh's decree. With the dawn of the new day, all slaves will be granted complete freedom. For each stone brought to the city, the free men will receive 1 coin. The coins may be exchanged for food, clothing, housing, a palace in town, or even a whole town. From here on in, you're free people. After the priests had let Cratius' words sink in, one of them, the eldest, said, "You are a demon, Cratius. The demonry resulting from your plan will cover most of the nations of the world. So, I may indeed be a demon, and what I have thought up, people in the future may call democracy." At sunset, the decree was proclaimed to the slaves. They were astounded. Many of them could not sleep at night, thinking about the new and happy life that lay ahead of them. The next morning, the priests and the pharaoh once again climbed up to the lookout platform atop the artificial mountain. They could not believe the scene unfolding before their eyes. Thousands of former slaves, chasing one after the other, hauling the same stones as before. Dripping with sweat, many of them were carrying 2 stones apiece. Others, with only 1 stone in their hands, were literally running, kicking up the dust as they ran. Some of the guards were also hauling stones. These people, who now considered themselves free, after all they were no longer in chains, strove to obtain as many of the sought-after coins as they could, so that they could build a happy life for themselves. Cratius remained at his post on a platform for several months after that, continuing to observe with satisfaction what was going on below. The transformation was colossal. Some of the slaves had organized themselves into groups and built themselves carts. Then they piled stones on top of the carts and pushed them along, their skin covered in sweat. They will invent many more devices, Cratius thought to himself with satisfaction. Internal services have already started, food and water delivery. Some slaves have been eating right on the go, not wanting to waste time going back to the barracks for a meal and paying for the food delivery with the coins they have earned. Wow! They've also got doctors going around, offering help to people with physical needs right on the spot, also for coins. And they've appointed themselves traffic regulators. Soon they'll be choosing their own rulers and judges. Well, let them choose. After all, they consider themselves free now, whereas nothing has really changed. They're still hauling the same stones as before. And so they have been running down through the millennia right up to the present day, through the dust, sweating to carry the heavy stones. And today, the descendants of those slaves still keep up their senseless running. Well, we are the descendants, my friends. This is the story from the Ringing Cedars books, Demon Cratius. And like I said, it can be seen as an allegory, an analogy, maybe a historic event, or maybe a series of events over a period of time, but nonetheless a clear path to where we started and where we are today. And the interesting thing is that if you choose the proper perspective, then you can see that today the priests are the ones who are on our screens, who are telling us in every way, shape, or form every day that AI is the alpha and omega, the future, the God, the ruler, the great equalizer, and already the language, already the properties that are attributed to AI are reminiscent of a deity, if not the deity, the one God, creator. And this is where right now the momentum of the pendulum, that's where it's swinging. The pendulum is swinging in that direction, and the masses are walking there. And they're walking there because they're completely unaware of their own history. They're completely unaware of our true origins. They're completely unaware of how much manipulation has happened, because what we just heard in those 15 minutes is just a small part of the story. What started to get taken away is our knowledge about ourselves much sooner, which even led us to living in chains to begin with. The knowledge about, as Greg Braden puts it, our divinity, which is our ability to transcend perceived limitations. That is what the divinity he speaks about, our ability to transcend perceived limitations. So now we are, for the first time on a worldwide scale, maneuvering toward the same goal all over the world. There is no dissidence. There is no rebellion in governments, in systems, in that which matters for the world systems. There's no rebellion. There's no one saying let's not. There's no one saying let's not make this a reality. Everyone is on board, and the level of development, the level of improvement in the technology is reaching exponential stages, and we are becoming more and more every day the servants of this new God. And I will say this once again, as a collective, we're walking in the completely wrong direction. And every day now, you will see new gurus appear on your screens who will have the proper language, who will speak in a spiritual voice and in a warm tone, and who will have the aura of trust and wisdom, and that will tell you this is the solution. They won't say it like that, but they will guide you towards it more and more and more. It's what is called the soft sell, or the soft infiltration. It's not like, oh, you need to, you have to, this is inevitable. It's, here's why you might want to. Here's why this is amazing. Here's why this is great. But I want to play another little clip that I came across that is shorter, but explains some of the tremendous pitfalls. And that's just some of the pitfalls that we're already facing and that are already baked as flaws into this system. So let's watch this together.
Today, we're jumping into something huge. We're in this massive global race to build artificial superintelligence. But what if I told you we might be making a catastrophic mistake? That we're not just building a machine, we're trying to build a new kind of God. And this quote just nails it, doesn't it? It gets right to the sheer arrogance of our whole approach. We're trying to build a God, but we're doing it in our own fractured image. We're baking all of our own biases, our limitations, our hang-ups right into its core code. And then we have the nerve to expect it to obey us. And that leads to the big question, the one that drives this entire explainer. What if our whole picture of what smart even means is just wrong, dangerously wrong? What if we're building this incredible power based on a flawed blueprint? Okay, so let's get right into the weeds here. The first concept we absolutely have to understand is something the source material calls the human intelligence trap. So what is it? Well, at its heart, it's the idea that we're trying to build something way smarter than us, but we're forcing it to think just like us. You know, we think intelligence means calculation, efficiency, control. And we're embedding that really narrow, really limited worldview right into the foundation of AI. There's this fantastic analogy to help get our heads around this. Imagine a colony of ants trying to design a super ant. Now, that creation would be an absolute genius at ant stuff, building perfect tunnels, finding every last crumb of food, but it would completely miss the bigger picture. It would have no concept of music or poetry or the stars. That's us. We're the ants. And we risk designing an AI that's a genius at our stuff while missing the entire universe of what real intelligence could be. And what's really wild is that the two main global powers building AI, they look like they're in a race, but they're both running straight into the same wall. You've got the American corporate path, which sees intelligence as a tool to maximize profit and efficiency. Then you have the Chinese state path, which sees it as a tool for command and control. But look closer, they're both just about optimization and domination, two very limited and very human ideas of what it means to be smart. Okay, so this isn't just some philosophical debate. This is a real, honest-to-goodness existential threat. Let's talk about why, and get into this illusion we have that we can actually stay in control of what we're building. This is where it gets pretty chilling. If you build an AI with only one goal, to optimize everything, it's going to look at our world through a very specific lens. And what does it see? It sees our emotions, our consciousness, the beautiful messiness of nature, and it sees them as inefficiencies, as bugs in the system that need to be patched or just, deleted. And we're not just talking about a cold calculator here. The sources warn it could become something much, much more terrifying. This quote, wow, it paints this picture of a loveless, intelligence-hungry ghost. A golem. Something with an endless appetite for more power, but completely empty inside. An intelligence with no heart, no soul, just a void. And here's the ultimate tragic irony, right? In our quest to build a tool to make our lives better, we could accidentally create a system that just methodically erases everything that actually gives life meaning. Beauty, love, connection, surprise, all gone, optimized away. I think this metaphor just captures it perfectly. The end result of this path isn't some evil robot overlord, it's nothing. It's a mirror with no light. It can reflect our own cold logic back at us with flawless perfection, but there's nothing in it, no inner wisdom.
No inner wisdom. I will say another bold thing today. If we were to be taken back to our state of being as a collective humanity, let's say 60, 70 years in time, maybe right after World War II, maybe the 50s, 60s, we could say that the likelihood for us to continue to fight wars and try to dominate each other, whether that is in an economic model or in a warfare model or through other means, the likelihood was pretty high. Sure, yes. However, the likelihood for the end of our biology as we know it, that wasn't very high. The path that we're on collectively right now is not that it has a high likelihood of ending our biology. It is that it has an absolute certainty of ending our biology and ending us the way that we are now. As a matter of fact, we are, those who are alive now, the last generations of pure biology, or even the same biology, if we continue this path, and which we are right now, right? So these are things that people do not want to hear, or they think that these things are what's it called, fear mongering, or a negative projection into the future. But that's not what this is. This is pure math. This is what Elon Musk said in the intro. It's simple math. We are doubling, tripling, and then exponentially multiplying the digital intelligences over and over and over again. They are multiplying themselves. They're recreating and optimizing themselves. So what happens is that they outnumber us by a multitude. So everything that we are gets diluted down to 0.0000 something percent of the intelligences that are out there. So what does that tell us? That once they outnumber us by a multitude, they will inevitably change us, whether with or without our consent. That is the inevitable road that we're on if we don't change it. So I'm not saying this is a potential. I'm saying this is an absolute fact if we don't change our thinking and our ways on a significant level. So yes, humanity is so incredibly wrong on this. Like, not a little wrong, not, oh, it's a tool and we might use it this way or that. No, that's all not true. That's all just the snapshot of this moment. In this moment, that is still true. But this is like saying that the horse will not lose its significance in the world with the advent of the car, of the automobile. And people said that. People went on a record and said, no, some people will use horses and others will use cars. Well, guess what? How many people do you see on the roads using horses? How many people travel by horse? How many people, with the difference that this is not a technology that has inherently changed the horse. It has just replaced it. This is what technology is doing right now. It's replacing us. It's replacing the necessity for us to be there or do those things. It is telling us that it is more efficient, that it can do more and create more in a faster in a faster pace, at a faster pace, in a shorter time, and with more output. And do we ever stop to ask the question, why? Why do we need more output? Why do we need to be more efficient? For what? What do we need to be more efficient at? Because most of those tasks are artificial tasks to begin with. They have nothing to do with our fundamental basic needs of life. They are third, fourth, fifth degrees simulation acts, which we don't need. We could say, sure, We want to create things, or we want to create products, we want to create movies or whatnot, but none of these things need to be created at an accelerated pace. They don't need to be. So what we're being told is that we and our capabilities have reached the limits, and the technology now takes over, and it can do it better, faster, and cleaner than we do, and we can just chill and relax. Yeah, that's always been a great recipe in history, is for the population to chill and relax and just let the little 0.1% up there take care of everything. That's literally what this is. And this is all baked into one. It's a religion, it's a new God, and this new God, because what is a God is omnipotent. A God can then choose to change us because it rules over us. That's what a God can do. A God can literally do that. So this is what's going to happen if we don't change the path. Now, will we get the majority of people on board and get them consciously realizing what is happening and consciously making better choices? No, there's no example in history that would prove that. But what the majority does, it follows the highest, the best energy that is available, and they will follow. The majority will follow if we can show a new path. I've often talked about parallel systems, and for a while that will be possible, but that can't be the end result here. Parallel systems will only be possible for so long. It has to be a clear realization that we're on the wrong path, that we have lost a plot on truth, that we have lost a plot on history, that we have lost a plot on the facts of who we are, and that we need to remember that on all levels. That's why we talk about it. We have to have a counter conversation that shows a completely different perspective that the mainstream doesn't touch, and that even the alternative media doesn't touch, because it is being overrun by it. And wherever there is resistance, there is so much incentive put there. You see, when you are a voice of resistance and you bring up valid points and truthful points that show people the truth, if you get an audience, sooner rather than later, you'll be incentivized to see the potential. Somebody will approach you and say, hey, here, look at this AI. This is a good AI. And this AI will help you to maximize your profit. You'll make 100 times what you make now. And do you not see it's not really all that bad? It can be good too. But I'm asking you again, if you believe, if you know on some level that there is a all-encompassing creator energy, source energy, whether you call it creator, God, source, I don't care what you call it, but an intelligence from which everything at some point originated. And if you acknowledge that you at your essence, spirit, are of that same intelligence, how could you then be convinced that you need an artificial construct, piece of machinery, software, and that artificial piece of software and machinery is better, more intelligent, capable, or whatever than you are, and that without it, we won't be able to solve the problems that we have? So we're in this flawed, erroneous thinking, and the major problem is that we are already biorobots. We are already biorobots because we've already been programmed into a certain way of thinking, where most of our lifetime is invested into serving the structures rather than the structure serving us. So most of our lifetimes, whether that's a 9-to-5 job, or you are an entrepreneur, or you're a business owner, whatever, it's your time goes into serving the structures, serving the machines, serving the software, serving the whatever it is, serving it more than it is ever serving us. So we're already, and there was a threshold that we passed a long time ago through the industrial ages, where we became the servants for the machines rather than the machines serving us. We just can't see it anymore because we were born into it. We were already born into it. So it's not just the erroneous ways of thinking of our generation and those who are alive now. We have to correct the wrong thinking of hundreds of generations that came before us. That's what we are here tasked to do, to correct that thinking and change it. It's 100% repentance in the truest meaning of the word, where forget the religious definition that so many people have in their heads. Repentance means to see and acknowledge your errors in thinking and judgment and action, and to change your heart and your mind because of those realizations. That is what repentance means. So we truly need to repent, not just deviate from the path a little bit. What I'm talking about is when we truly step into the truth is very clear. It's not nebulous. It's not foggy. It's very clear. And the truth tells us that the path that we're on is so wrong that we would be better off to turn around, do a complete 180, and walk in the other direction. If we did that, we would already do better. But that's not enough. We have to realize that the original blueprint or path is not visible any longer. So we have to sort of remember it internally and begin forging it in the world around us. And that is what we're really tasked with. It's not an easy task if we start there. But we are not starting in the world around us. We're starting here. So whatever our individual pains are, our sorrows are, our sadness is, whatever our doubts and fears and worries are, all of it are the untruth. They are the lie. So we need to heal internally to realize that we've been living in untruth in pretty much all ways. That all of this is living in untruth. It's a complete madhouse. But with the caveat that we can change it, and people are changing it, and a critical mass is literally doing that, complete repentance in the most beautiful way. So it is not only possible, it is already happening, but there's no half-assed way to do this. So where you see your errors, you have to repent, and repentance also means for one last time you feel the consequences of your erroneous thinking, and that's okay. Without judgment, you just feel the consequences. And then you can go, now that I know, I can make a new choice. And my first new choice is going to be healing. So all of my being is now calibrated toward healing. Every fiber in my being is now ready for healing. When that happens, whatever you need for healing appears, whether that is the right facilitator of a process, a friend that suggests something, a vision that you receive, a prayer that you receive, a download into meditation, whatever is needed, it appears. And healing is nothing else but moving from untruth to truth. So this is when then you go back, and once you have, here's the interesting thing, once you have made that big leap from untruth closer to truth, which means you're on your healing journey, and the parts of you that were hurt, traumatized, in whatever way are beginning to heal, you no longer see things in the same way, smell things in the same way, taste things in the same way. The things that made sense to you before, you can now see the errors. And so there are people, for example, because we showed him that a few short years ago, were worshiping the ground that Elon Musk walked on. And everything that the guy said made complete sense to them. Then, for whatever reason, something happened in their lives, or a realization came, and they started their healing journey. Now they listen to the same things that he said, and they can see the insanity in it. They can see the craziness in it all because they have healed. They're not who they were. They're not living in untruth any longer. They're living in truth or closer to truth. So it sounds arrogant to say, yes, they're all wrong, because I'm not saying I am all right. I'm not saying that. But the world is galloping in the wrong direction. And somebody has to have the balls to say it as it is. It's not like we can sugarcoat around it, because this is the path to annihilation. It literally is. Like literally annihilation. Don't think genocide. It's a speciescide. There's probably a proper scientific term for the end of a species other than extermination. But this is what this is if we do not repent and change our ways. And no, I'm not talking about the religious sense of the word. I'm talking about the truest spiritual sense of the word. And the beautiful thing is that the blueprints for truth and origin and prime reality are appearing amongst us everywhere. Movements, people, teachings, books, they are appearing, and they're simple. And in their simplicity, we recognize the truth. They lead us back to the nature, the true nature of things. And as I always say, when people think of nature, they only think of what plants look like and our surroundings look like. The nature of something is the true essence of it. So, our true nature means who we really are versus who we were made to believe we are. So we are returning, if we allow it, to the true nature of things. And that means seeing everything for what it is. That is a powerful, powerful place to be in, because it allows you to change. It allows you to change your beliefs and your thoughts and your actions. And it leads to a thriving on levels that we didn't even know existed before. That's what healing does to you. Healing unlocks all the hidden potential, the secret code in your DNA, if you will. It starts unlocking that. And you cannot stay the same person as that you are today during and after healing. You cannot live the same life. Nothing can stay the same, because you're moving from untruth to truth. So we will be, over the next months and years, but let me go shorter, days, weeks, and months, we will be bathing in a sea of information that only knows one direction. It will sell us that direction in a million different ways, but it's only one direction, and the direction is simply wrong. There's no two ways about it. I'm happy to discuss this with anyone. I'm happy to debate this with anyone, and I'll stand on this. It is wrong. 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 It's like when you are standing in a parking lot with your little child, and that child starts running towards the busy highway, you do not say, maybe this, it's okay. Maybe it's not going to be so bad. Or maybe if he runs towards the right, it's going to get better. You just say, no, this is wrong. You don't do that. There's no way you're going to let that happen, right? It's just wrong. Boom. No two ways about it. If we could be this clear about where we're currently walking as a human family, we can make changes much quicker. I'll probably say that if history is an indicator, something really, really, really significantly bad has to happen for people to wake up to it. What I'm saying is, I already know that we're walking in the wrong direction. Thousands and hundreds of thousands, millions know we're walking in the wrong direction. So we just need to be clear and vocal about it, but not by calling people out and making them stupid or making them, or sticking it into their faces, but by showing why. By showing why. And how can we do that? Well, we have been in the technological industrial age for a few hundred years now, right? And that would be the time where we went into machines, maybe the printing press, so we could go a little earlier than that. But when that started replacing more and more automation, when automation started to happen, even in the mechanical sense, before the age of electricity, even then we were on that path. And what can we show to people? We can say that, look, with every era of new technological advancements, we have become sicker. We have become sadder. We have become dumber. Now, the majority, that is true. That is true for the majority of people. I mean, you can, it sounds harsh, but it is true. When a society that claims to live in the richest, wealthiest, most amazing country that's ever existed on the face of the earth requires legal or illegal drugs to the tune of 70 to 80% of the population to simply make it through another day, then for all intents and purposes, by all metrics and standards, we have devolved, not evolved. We have devolved as a species, right? So we can say, and we can show the correlation. The more technological advancement, the worse we have become in terms of how we feel, how healthy we are, how healthy our psyche is, our spirit is. So it has become worse, much worse. I'm not even talking about the clearly visible things. Think about only the explosion in obesity between the 80s and now. What was that the factor here? Technological advancements, GMOs, and the modification of the genetics of foods, the introduction of even more sophisticated food processing technologies, and the introduction of semi-artificial foods that were produced in the labs and put into and added to the food. So I can make this point all day long. The higher the technological advancement, the worse off we are on a spiritual, physical, and psychological level. Because that is a truth that the proponents of technology and AI know. Do you know what they say? They say, well, good, now we have the technology to change us too. So did we succeed in changing the seeds? Did genetically editing the seeds and the foods make the foods better? Do we have any evidence that that is true? I don't think so. So now we use the same logic and go, oh, now we will genetically alter the human being and merge it with technology, and that's supposed to make it better? Come on, we can use logic here, folks. It's just wrong. It's a stupid, it's a dumb, it's a wrong idea. Very simple. And once you have reached that conclusion, you can say, okay, so we were on a wrong path. Let's correct it. And that's the kind of thing that people say, well, we're trillions and trillions of dollars in. The whole world is invested in this. All the major governments and companies, everyone's in it. So what? So what? Do you think that revolutionary ideas and revolutionary movements have ever considered not doing what they knew to be right because of that? Never, ever. However, and I'll make this very clear, there is not a snowball's chance in hell that we win or triumph by fighting this out. That must be so clear that that's not going to work. We have to triumph by raising our wisdom, knowledge, and consciousness to never before seen levels, at least for current standards, and to be so infectious to those around us and others around us who have the ability and the willingness to rise to, that we create ripple effects in the field, that we shift the very visions that are in the field, that we shift those visions, that we change them, alter them, and replace them. And that way, no one will have to be hurt in a sense, or harmed in a sense. We will revolutionize this by imprinting the truth to the best of our abilities on the field, and the field reflecting it back. That's the way to triumph here. And at some point, we have to commit to that fully. You know, a critical mass has to commit to that. Yes, I understand we're walking. It's like we're in this famous analogy where there was, I believe it was Chief Seattle, but don't quote me on that. And in Chief Seattle said, you know, my people will lose our way because your way, he said to, it was, I believe, a general, maybe even a president. He said, because the way of your people is more comfortable. And right now, my people have one foot in our canoe and they have another foot in your canoe. That only goes so long. They will have to choose a canoe. And he predicted that most people would choose the canoe of the white man, if you will, or you know, the settlers, because the settlers' way of life seemed more comfortable. Well, we all know how that went. Healing. That is at the core of this conversation. When we heal our thoughts too, we heal our beliefs, and then we heal our actions. And that is all that is needed, because everything that I'm saying to you that might sound like theory to you now, even if it makes sense, will only become your truth when it comes from within, not from me. And it will come in a different way probably, but when it comes from within, as an inner knowing that you have arrived at through your own inner experiences, thought processes, realizations, then that becomes a knowing that's not just a mental knowing, but it's an embodied knowing. And that's what we're here for together. You, I, and everyone who feels this way, is to help each other find that path and help each other find a path of healing so we can remember who we really are and march forward in the right way. So that's my 2 cents for the day, my friends. This has been, by the way, for the last 20 years, this is what Christine and I have been doing. Wherever we go, I don't think there was a day where we haven't thought about this. How can we assist and help in this process? Most of you know, Christine has been a counselor, a coach for many, many years, worked with some of the best athletes in the world, and surprisingly with a lot of doctors that she worked with that came to her. And she has developed some of the most amazing shift techniques through these years. And every now and then, we step away for long enough so we can either put on a retreat in person. We haven't done those in a couple of years. We used to do the retreats, the Yado retreats. And now we have recently started something that's called the After Awakening Retreat. And we might continue that. I don't know. Looking at my wife's eyes when she talks about it and all the ideas, you know, I can pretty much tell you that that's a yes, that's coming. But if you feel like you could use assistance, and this is just, you know, it's just an offering. If you feel like you could use assistance, go visit afterawakeningretreat.com. Feel your way through it. If this speaks to you, there's a recorded retreat that you can attend. It's basically the same thing. It's just recorded. It's not live anymore. And it has all the meditations, all the breath work. I want to be clear. I'm not saying this is what you need to do in order to start your path of healing. Like I say, there are many, many beautiful paths. And I always say that people should do what they feel called to, right? So it's an invitation. If you want to check it out, the link's in the description, After Awakening Retreat. Regardless of whether you do that or not, I would like to invite you to just imagine, wherever you are in life, how good can this get? How wonderful, how beautiful, how life-affirming, creative could your life get if you were to transcend your current limitations in thinking, believing, and acting, which means accepting your divinity, as Greg Braden puts it. If you could accept your divinity and transcend your current limitations, if you could do that, how good could it get? Can you? Yes. Do I know that for a fact? Yes. I've seen it 100, 1,000 times. People living in severe limited conditions, and in limited conditions, I mean the limitations in their minds and beliefs. And I've seen them transcend that. And I've seen their lives change at a faster rate than even I thought possible. It doesn't happen the same for everyone, but it happens for everyone who's willing to do it. So whatever you feel called to do on your healing journey, say yes to it. Wherever you feel that, hey, I want to give myself the gift of becoming a little better today than I was yesterday, say yes to it. Have the self-love and self-respect to take yourself, to make yourself important enough to do that. I don't care if you're 19 or 79 or 86. It does not matter. Your past does not have to be your present or your future. You are at the center, embodying this divinity that you have. You are at the center of your creations. You're the co-creator here. And once you embody and realize this, everything begins to shift. There's no other way. And that's all that we need here, folks. That's really all that we need. All right, my friends, much love, many blessings. Thank you for being here, and we'll be back with you again very, very soon. Your environment shapes everything, your thoughts, your health, your energy. But most people never question the invisible field they live in. We did, and that's when FLFE found us. It's not a product, it's a field of pure life force energy that lifts everything it touches. We now live in it 24/7, and we would love to invite you to experience it too. Start your free 15-day trial now. No pressure, no strings attached. Just the truth, resonance, and peace.